And we are live. Good evening, all. Good evening, chat. Everyone who's watching.
Evening.
Hi, Tom. Hope you're well.
Yeah, you?
Yeah, I'm really good. I'm recovered. I was in Dublin last weekend for a stag do,
Yeah.
so that was really, really good. So I fully recovered from that. I'm back into the tank. I must admit, after virtually 3 months off from the tanks, I've done quite a lot of work on the tanks this last week because I was looking at pretty crap. But I'll maybe get back to that in a moment. So how you doing? You all right?
Yes, mate, shattered. Well, you know, sump day today. So day
Yeah.
off work, and yeah. What do you do with a day off work? Empty your sump. Why not?
Absolutely. What else? Nothing else to do, is there?
No, nothing else on a nice sunny day.
Sunny.
No, needed doing. 250-litre water change as well. So yeah. Anyway. Oh, you've gone on me.
No,
You there? You in?
Yeah. My son is streaming upstairs as well, so God knows how. I'm going to try and kick him off, but he's not having any of it. So hopefully we'll be all right. He says. Right, shall we do the intros and then we'll get into more about our tanks and then get onto the subjects in hand, the fashion of reefing or the reefing fashion, and dig into that a little bit later on. So
yeah, definitely. Oh, you've gone again.
So first is Critical Reefer. Good evening to you. Hope you are. Hope you're well. Tony, hiya, Tony. Good to see you as always. Riggsy69. Good evening to you, sir. And good evening to Cotty's Reef. Well, since he managed to live stream, so good to see you. Hiya, Techers Reef. Good evening to you. And hiya, Liam. Is that a new logo? With a shark in the butt.
He's got Bruce in the picture.
Of course. Right, did I break up again?
You did, yeah.
Right, I'm going to go and change the internet. I'll be 30 seconds.
Oh dear.
Right, let's see if that's any better. Fingers crossed. So where are we? Sid, good evening to you. One arm reefing. Good
Evening, Lee.
Hi, Lee. How you doing? Johnny boy, good evening to you. He's can't get on his laptop, so watching on the TV and phone. I can feel your pain on that one. Right, let's see who we got. UKM 120. Good evening to you. Reef 216. Hiya, how you doing? And we got Drippy. Now, what's Drippy saying? Evening, Reef Plums. Hope everyone's well. Currently another wake, and it's still will be sinking off to the toilet to catch up. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
Hi, Haley.
Evening.
Southeast Reefer. Good evening to you. Yes, what's that called? Prestige Reef Aqua H. Yeah, I saw that. He's they're running some ads, aren't they? Because I know he's setting up some coral trays, I think, is my understanding. So we'll see how that goes. Jupiter's Reef, good evening to you.
Evening.
Hiya, Carl. Hope you're well.
Evening, mate.
Hiya, Dave. Good evening. Woody is in the house. Hiya, Woody. Hope you're well. Hiya, Tim from Wakefield Reef. Good evening to you.
Mate.
Did you build your bird feeder? But no. It's just leaning up against the wall because it's had a bad winter. Well spotted.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I should have moved it really, but hey, that's life. Changing into how many internets has you got? I've got two. I've got BT and Virgin, and they're both rubbish. But there we go. Only because there's quite a few of us in the house and working from home, so therefore we have 2 different internets. It'd be all right if they were okay, but you know, they're not. Hiya, Darren. How you doing?
Yeah, evening, mate. Evening, Darren.
Yeah. And then Tekker's Reef. I've got a hologram hammer.
You've gone again. This is going to be eventful for me on my own.
It is. Did you hear me say that? Have you got a hologram hammer?
Yeah, and then you just froze.
Oh,
like
did I?
Yeah.
Oh,
Musical
dear.
statue.
Right, let's see what a hologram hammer looks like. I've never heard of that one. Hologram hammer. Right, there we go. Right, I'm just going to put it on the screen. That doesn't make me crash. What do you make of that, Tom?
Nice.
That is nice,
Cool.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is nice. Very nice. Good price as well for the cut. Well, if you get it.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you paid for it, but yeah, looks good.
That's nice. Well, 59. That's, I don't know what the going rate is for hammers. So I've never really been into hammers, I must admit. I haven't really kept them that much. Have you kept hammers very often?
Have I what? Sorry.
Have you kept hammers?
Yeah, just not very good with walling ones. They're my nemesis.
I must admit, I've kept away from walling corals, whether it be bubble or hammers or anything like that, because I always think with a branching one, if something goes a bit wrong, you can always frag it. But with a wall one, you're kind of stuffed, aren't you?
Exactly.
You are absolutely stuffed. Right. Okay. So that is who he's knocking around. Should we talk about tanks? Should we talk about yours first of all, what you've been up to? And then I've got quite a bit to update on.
So yeah, so we did the sump today, which just took, I sent you some pictures, didn't I? Don't think you won't be able to put them up, will you?
No, not on my laptop.
Did set 250 litres water yesterday, salted it, heated it, and then yeah, started systematically taking everything out because there was so much detritus. Because I was speaking to Liam earlier, I've been running a filter floss that I've been using. It's quite a cheap one, to be fair, and you go through it. I mean, I change it daily, but it doesn't seem to be as thick as the one that I keep getting off Amazon when I can get it. Which it makes a hell of a difference. For the simple fact, it doesn't let as much detritus through and particles through. So yeah, as a result of 6 months since I did it last, or 5 months, it was time to do it. So yeah, it's taken me all day. So skimmer's been out, zeolite reactor out, clean pumps, and just massive husbandry. Really, it wasn't the most enjoyable, but it definitely looks better for it. So yeah, that's about it really. Oh, added 2 more WAVs for a bit more flow. So yeah, we're on 6 now, so I'm hoping that's enough.
Yeah. And how are you getting on with the Zeovit?
Fine.
Because I've started using it. I've started using it, and I'm on week 4.
Yeah.
And I'm using the Zeo Start, which is for, is it a carbon dose?
Your food's the carbon dose, because your food's there's vinegar. It's like a vinegar that's in your food.
So you got that, and I dose that.
Yeah, twice a day.
So that's every day, and then I've got the Zeo food, which
you do.
One dose daily for 1 week, and then I can't remember if it's
3 times a week. 3 times a week
for 3 weeks, and then I've got the Zeo back, which I didn't get out of the cupboard, and I dose that twice a week. And I had an ICP come back from Reef's Elements today, and my phosphate, or the phosphorus, or I think it's total phosphate, I think they go, it's gone down from 0.36 to 0.24. Now, bearing in mind, I'm not doing any water changes because of the dinos in this tank, and everything else is pretty much the same. It's definitely having an effect in bringing the phosphate down. I still need to bring it down quite a bit. And the reason I'm not doing water changes is obviously because I've got dinos I think so far, so good. Did I break up again?
Yeah. Oh dear. It's entertainment. People, that's all people have tuned in for. They're not tuned in to learn anything or talk about marine stuff to laugh at us two clowns.
Right, I'm just going to see if I can use Sam's computer. Just bear a minute.
Well, at least it's working for you anyway.
Yeah, so it is definitely working. And I mean, it's only a month. I had no expectation as to how long it would take to kick in. I must admit.
Yeah. And that's doing no water changes, is it?
Yeah, there's 0 water changes being done on the tank. I haven't done a water changes for I don't know, probably since I diagnosed with dinos. That's nearly 4 months. I mean, the dinos is beginning to go because I looked under the microscope. There wasn't as many dinos in under the frame. And also they were hardly moving. Whereas before, it's really weird. You see them whizzing around under the microscope. They're a lot more dormant than they were. So I had to take 2 or 3 different samples to try and find some. And when I did, they were more dormant. So I mean, I'm assuming that's a positive. But I got no idea how long it would take to clear it. And of course, what's happening? I've got all algae on the back here. But I'm using that as almost a nutrient to suck up the nutrients. So I'm not cleaning the glass. There's a little bit of algae on the sand bed in that because I'm thinking if I've got algae there, that will suck up the nutrients. So I know long term it's not sustainable. I'm gonna have to clean it, but for now I've got it stable, and it's quite. I mean, I could scrape off the algae off the back and stuff like that, which I've done before. But I'm just taking just leaving it as it is. I don't know. Would you think that's a good idea, or do you think I should clean the back?
I think you should clean the back and still do a bit of a water change because you'll tend to find that a lot of that nuisance algae will absorb a lot of other trace elements as well. So I've bottomed out on so many different trace elements as a result of it.
Really?
The ugly phase. Yeah.
So let me have a look because I got an ICP. I done an ICP in all 3 tanks today. Well, yesterday, and it's brilliant. I sent off 3 ICPs yesterday to Reef's Elements.
Right.
And got it back today. So I got the results this afternoon. So that's probably that 3rd time that has happened. So really pleased with the results that you get. So if I have a look at because you can go and press dose. So this is the stuff I'm low on in terms of minor elements.
Iron. I bet you've got iron, cobalt, chromium, probably vanadium.
Yeah. So boron.
Yeah.
Chloride. My magnesium's low, but I just need to, because I'm not dosing. So obviously it's using, because I've got a torch in there and I've got a goni. So I reckon they're probably sucking up some nutrients. Potassium's a little bit low. Barium. Cobalt. Is that one of the ones you said?
Yeah, cobalt, chromium,
iron,
and iodine.
Iron. So yeah, it's actually. So you think that and manganese, even though I'm dosing that because I've got the goni in there. So yeah, it's missing quite a few of the minor elements. So you reckon I should scrape the back?
I think you should scrape the back, manually remove it, and just do a 10% with a decent size. Yeah. Otherwise, you're gonna have to go out and start buying these different bottles, and they'll fall.
Yeah, I'll have to look at what my alkalinity is, and also what my calcium will be on here, won't it? Because what I could do is just dose small amounts of all for Reef, as long as my alkalinity is not too high. I could start doing that. Let me just see what because the problem with the RZ one, it doesn't tell you what your alkalinity is, but I'm not overly fussed with that because I test that every week. So my calcium is 435, which isn't bad actually. I usually aim for about 400 to 450 on calcium.
Yeah.
So I probably, even though I'm light on magnesium, I probably can't dose all 3 because my calcium will start going sky high. So yeah, the only concern I've got is about. You're right. I've got to take the stuff off the back because that'll be sucking up Alarella. It's been like a refugium, isn't it? Refugiums.
Yeah,
Will
exactly.
strip out some of your minor elements. That's why I don't use a refugium. I didn't think about that. That's a fair point.
But just like manganese precipitates, get the right words. Iron does as well, from what I've read. So it is something that you can quite often either have to start dosing daily or bi-daily. But unless you're going to start spending loads of money on ICPs and sending them off all the time, I think for me the cheapest and more natural option is just to do a small water change.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about what it'll do to the dinos. But by trying to solve something, I'll create a bigger issue for me corals, because actually the corals that I've got in here are doing pretty good. The Goniopora is doing nice. There's a nice chalice there. The gold torch, which is around there, that's doing pretty good. So it's trying to get a balance, isn't it, between not trying to destroy the corals and try and get rid of the dinos.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what some of the comments are. Is this the snake hole from KZ? And I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I get mixed things about it because people haven't really heard about this very often. And although it's been around for donkey's years, and also it doesn't really tell you what's in there, it is perceived in some quarters as snake oil.
Does it work?
What, the KZ? I think it works, yeah. And you see on there, although you don't see many YouTube videos about it, do you? And
no, there are a lot, but they are obviously going to be they're in German, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. But when I've looked on the forum, there's some fantastic tanks on there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, someone's saying, have anyone noticed the lack of bottled bacteria available at the minute? No Dr. Tim's on microbacteria. I bought some Microbacter 7 the other day, and that was online because I'm using that to dose one of the other tanks at the moment. I must admit, I haven't noticed anything else. What about you? Have you noticed that? Then I haven't gone to buy Dr. Tim's, to be fair.
No, I don't use them, to be honest with you. I've never needed to. Well, I can't really comment if they had any benefit by using them, but yeah, I've just gone back to weekly or bi-weekly water changes. Again, that's dashed down to routine. I'm not going to be doing 250 every week. So it costs me a fortune in salt, but I'll do a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I must admit, I was doing water changes every week on this tank, and it was working to that point because I didn't have a massive number of corals. I didn't have to dose stuff. And it's funny enough, do they sell all these elements for you to dose every day by any chance? If you're talking about relating to the ICPs, yes.
Yeah,
they do. I must admit, the only one I dose is manganese. I don't dose anything else. Do you dose any iron or anything like that?
Well, I went through a bit of a 3-week experiment. I shared it with a couple of friends, Liam being one, Alex, Drippy, a few others, and I followed the guidance for, I think it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and I bought, so we went selenium, chromium, cobalt, iron, vanadium, zinc, and followed everything. So I mean, you're looking at what, 60, they're £15 each a bottle, so you're looking at nearly 100 quid there for 60 bottles. And we did ICPs every week, no water change, obviously, because I didn't want to, skew with the data or whatever. Followed the guidance, and in every ICP I did afterwards, iron lack of detection, chromium lack of detection, cobalt lack of detection, selenium lack of detection. There was only vanadium and zinc that actually showed a reading after 3 ICPs. So now we're with 3 ICPs, we're upwards £150. So for me, I'll just scrap that idea and just go back to bucket of salt, decent quality tropic marine salt, and then let's just do a water change, and then maybe send an ICP off once a month. Chasing numbers, I always say don't chase numbers, and I fell foul of it because I wanted to try and get my water a bit better, but I didn't see any benefit from spending 100 and whatever pounds on all these little bottles. So that's just my experience for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's an expensive experiment, isn't it? And I think this all comes back to, if you do water changes, and then you dose. And that's why I think All for Reef's really good, because you know it's got everything in there. I do find with All for Reef, I still have an imbalance with magnesium, so I have to top that up manually. But I can explain that because in a 170 litre tank, I've got something like a 20 head torch. And I know torches seem to take up quite a bit of magnesium. So it kind of makes sense. If you've got a coral that in a small tank's disproportionate to the size of the tank, and you know it's hungry for certain elements, then it's going to knock it out of sync. But I do find that the calcium and alkalinity is usually pretty spot on with that.
I mean, one of the reasons why I've switched to fauna with the ICPs now. I've read quite a number of reviews, spoke to people who use it, and they're really helpful. I mean, the best thing about it is they come prepaid, so you don't have to go to the post office, which is a massive pain in the ass for me. Yeah. Ironically, Darren's saying, "No, I haven't, mate. I'm going to wait. I'm going to do it next week. I'm going to do a fauna, a spare Reefs elements one I've got, on a Triton one. I'm going to send all three off at the same time with all three samples of water. So I'm just curious to see what readings I get."
Absolutely. So when it's prepaid, is that kind of normal second class or first staff, or any kind of special delivery?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest with you. The new green ones that they've done, I've not sent one off yet. I bought them when I came down to Love to Reef, actually.
Yeah.
I'll tell you now. No, looks like first.
Yeah. First class.
Yeah. But the good thing about the fauna ones, they've got the knowledge centre, which I think is really useful for people. So it's not just a case of, saying, "Oh, this is low, this is high, you need to add this or do a water change." The knowledge centre for me on the fauna website, which again, I'm not expert on, I've only just started looking at it, it just teaches you more about the relationship between different elements and the chemistry, which I think's really good. So you can understand why certain ones are more important than others. And if you don't have enough of one, then it can have a negative effect on 2 or 3 others. So I think that's really good. And it's free. It's free. It's online, Knowledge Centre. But yeah, it's really good, the fauna one. So
it's
I'm
funny.
Give it a go and see what happens anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the longer you're in the hobby, the more you start to delve into different things and go into the detail a bit more and try and understand the relationships more.
Well, I'm just a bit skeptical with this whole 24-hour turnaround. I think it's too good to be true. But
you think?
Okay, call me a cynic. Yeah, I do think it is, because everybody would be doing it in 24 hours and they don't, do they?
Well, some of them are not in the UK.
I get that.
That makes it
different.
That's a fair point. I mean, I don't know is the answer on that.
All I'm saying is, cliche, when something sounds too good to be true, normally it is. That's all I'm saying at the minute. But let the data speak for itself. I'm going to send 3 off next week. I'll share it with you. I'm curious to see what results I get back from 3 different ones. Yeah.
So do you I mean, I've read some things online about that the trace elements or the minor ones always seem to be 0. Therefore, is that the cynic would say, is that then you can buy some of the bottles, so therefore you're topping up and using
which we already know are significantly diluted compared to similar products that are available through other brands, which I've talked about. And again, for me, I think you could save yourself all these £15 bottles by just doing a 10% water change every now and again. I think you'll just find that you'd be topping it up naturally, or in a more natural way. But again, call me a cynic. I just think it's too good to be true.
Yeah, and in salt, there's a balance, isn't it? The way they put the minor elements in, and so therefore they're adding it to a certain level, as opposed to if you've got individual bottles, how do you know you're putting that right amount in? I know they suggest it in the ICPs, but that could be a bit challenging. Okay. What's this? They are 20 kilometers away from my house. I know them. And they not even tell me what it's in it. Is that KZ you're talking about, Micah?
I think it is. Yeah,
I think it is. Yeah. Dr. Teen's been on the back order for a few months now. Joe and I waited ages for bacteria. It's a good point. Where's Jay? He's been away because it's half term.
He's been to Scarborough, but he's stuck on the Helter Skelter.
I thought he was afraid of heights.
He's only allowed on Helter Skelter if he just passes out you this toll to ride this ride.
It goes on tiptoes.
Yeah, he's come home with a car full of tickets from the amusements.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's half term again. And then I think he's back at school next week. And then it's, as he keeps saying, it's 6 weeks and another break.
Hard life.
He's going to Turkey to get his hairnet sorted. What sort am I using? Red Sea. So I've used Red Sea since I started. I used to use the Coral Pro because that was what was recommended to me. So that's the one that has the alkalinity of about 12. And I soon realized after about 4 or 5 months, once I learned more about the hobby, that I didn't need an alkalinity of 12. So now I switched to blue. And at that time, the blue bucket used to be cheaper than the Coral Pro. So I'm thinking I don't need the alkalinity at 12. It's like 8.4. And if I can get it cheaper, that's fine. But I think they're both the same price now. So I've used that. But what I find, Dave, on other tanks is magnesium's not hit as hard than it is on the smaller tank because of the balance of the corals. I don't have any torches in one of the other tanks, and this one's only a small torch. I mean, it could be a red herring, and it could be something else that's absorbing the magnesium, but I don't think it. I think it is. I think it's down to the massive torch that's in that tank. In a way, I wish I hadn't put it into it because it stings everything else. So I can only put corals around it. It doesn't sting like Favias and Zoas, and also Hystrix. It's weird because I always thought torches stung SPS, which they do. But I've got a Hystrix that's only about 2 inches away, and it latches onto the Hystrix, and the Hystrix just ignores it.
Wow.
Tom, anywhere around here sell the fauna ICP or online?
Well, the other good thing I like, and again, this is just from trial and error and personal experience. What I do like about them is that if you buy them in bulk, I don't mean hundreds because I know they're expensive, but if you can buy, I think it's if you buy 6, you pay for 5, so you get 1 free. Which I've been banging on about somebody to do this for a long time. It's about time somebody did. A bit of reward for spending some money with somebody, typical Yorkshireman. I want a discount, but yeah, you buy 6 and you pay for 5, which is
so what's that? You save about 25, 30 quid?
Yeah.
That's the kind of standard price, isn't it?
Yeah.
First class, yeah. Keep it simple. Test for the main, and a 10% water change. The main, I mean, I haven't done ICPs on the other 2 tanks raised. I'm doing one fairly regular on this one because I'm trying to increase, and the element's gone white silicon. So the silicates with this, I dose silicate. So, and silicate's a really hard test, as you found out. It's an expensive test. So what I'm doing a ICP on this every couple of months, and the silicates have gone up again because I'm dosing loads of silicates now, and it's going up because what happens is you dose silicates, that then triggers diatoms. The diatoms then outcompete the dinos. So that's kind of one of the principles, but it's also feeding algae and everything else. And what I'm trying to do, bizarrely, is trying to create other nuisances and then outcompete. Now, what's going to happen in the dino's gone? I then got to try and sort some of the other stuff out. But I think for me, greenhouse algae and stuff like that, I think is easier to manage because you can do it via nutrient control.
Just ease off that zero food though, because it is a carbon source, so you will end up feeding everything else as well.
So what's that? Sorry.
Just ease off the zero food if that starts to happen, because you will feed everything.
Yeah, I was, as you know, it's come down by 0.1. I don't really want. If I'm happy with phosphate now to be at about level 0.1 because of the corals I keep, I don't really need them that much lower. So I think what I'll do is I'll start coming off the gas on both of it to not so much now, but I'll give it another month, and then I'll probably start. I'll keep dosing it, but I'll reduce the amount that I dose. I think again, it's all well and good when you follow the measurements of 4 of this and 5 of that, but also it depends on the stocking of your tank. how many fish you got and how many
Yeah,
corals.
and how often you feed, which is why I have always run it on.
Yeah.
He's back. Good comments. Drippy. Oh dear.
I'll come to that. What's it? Well, let's go to it and I'll come back up. What's this? 30 likes. Will Tom sing like a
No, I won't. And I certainly won't be drive all the way down to your end next Friday to help you rescape your tank either.
Oh, you're coming down to us, are you, next week?
Coming down next Friday, yeah.
What, you staying over the, what, you staying, what, for the day? Or?
We're going to stay at the Green Man again, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I have a mandate with Mr. Drip. I'll be on the live stream through Wi-Fi, so we'll see. And then AAC on Saturday, hopefully. Yeah, if you've got time.
Oh, let us know what time you're going down there. Let's see if I can pop down.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah,
cool, that'd be good. Let's see what else we've got here. We've got the new TMC ICP is more accurate and cheaper.
Yeah, I'm curious to try that one. I didn't look at them, to be fair. I'd love to reef. I should have done.
Yes, we gave away, 10 of those. I must admit, I haven't seen any feedback. I know they're fairly new. I haven't seen any feedback about them. But, I mean, the thing is, how do you know they're more accurate?
Well,
it's a difficult one, which we've discussed a few times, haven't we, around accuracy and is it a guide?
I think, well, there was a comment earlier about pollutants, and I think Chris Lancashire said I agree, and that for me for water change has always been historically, the benefit for me.
Yeah.
Even if you've got an issue, if you're doing water changes, you're going to prolong it, and you're going to give yourself time to be able to, hopefully get top side of it without it getting top side of you. So, I'm not going to start. This is a topic of fashion tonight and in the reefing, and I'm going to go off on a tangent about water change or no water change. But I just think if I look back, and again, this is just me. Everybody has a voice for their own tank and experience and whatever knowledge. But for me, when I look back to all the tanks I've had most success with, I've done water changes, and for me, that just speaks volumes. So again, I'm not sitting here saying you should do it. I just think the more I've thought about it over the last month with getting these little bottles and trying to raise this and raise that and lack of detection and all that, I've ended up falling foul of something I said I would never do again. And all of a sudden I'm chasing numbers and buying all these little bottles that you don't need to go down that path if you just do a 10% water change.
So you think you had gone down the route of overcomplicating it?
Yeah, overcomplicating it. And I think, if you want to get all these different, elements in your water, don't get me wrong, there'll be some that you might not get from your salt that you will have to add manually. But again, that's just, sound like a cliche. That's just understanding your tank's personality and what you've got in the tank, what absorbs it, what's growing, what lighting, what flow, what feed. There's so many caveats to this, as we all know. I think you can definitely prevent yourself falling foul of it, like I have recently, by just sort of putting the brakes on and just saying, hang on a minute, what have I done before that worked? Well, I did water changes, and I did an ICP probably once a month, and I fed the fish, and I checked my alkalinity, like Tim's put, calcium and magnesium, and because let's be honest, we haven't got test kits for selenium and vanadium and everything else, have we? We have to rely on that ICP. And if we're a bit skeptical as to whether or not that information is accurate, I'm not pointing any fingers at all, but if we're questioning it, then why would we act on that advice if we're questioning the data in the first place? Isn't that a bit suicidal? I think it is anyway. But again, I might be wrong.
I'm a firm. If I look at the best tanks I've had, it's about routine. Maintenance on so and so day, testing the water on so and so, only because then I can then adjust if I'm necessary with a little bit of dosing. Cleaning the glass, doing that, and having that kind of 7-day routine, even if one day it's just feeding and nothing else. I think the tanks respond to that because it's a habit. I've never been one for kind of doing a water change every 2 or 3 weeks and making it a 30 or 40% water change. Because I do find if you keep slightly sensitive corals, if you're doing a 30 or 40% water change, that can be too much for it. I must admit, I really want to, and I haven't got round to it on one of the tanks, doing auto water changes because it's in the garage.
You've just took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, that's the ideal, isn't it?
Yeah. And certainly it's a shame Ryan left BRS, because all the tanks he set up had this, I think it was like 1.2 or 2% a day. I can't remember what it was, but those auto water changes where it was a percent, I think it must have been 2%, because he was looking for about 12%, which is about right. You take into consideration that you're taking out some of the water you've put in. I think that's probably if you can do auto water changes, that's probably the perfect, if they're the least imperfect solution, because I think it's least amount of effort. You're keeping it stable, aren't you? Because you're making incremental changes. And
it's funny you should say that, because I've not finished watching it yet, but I've watched I'm sure somebody else might have watched it. And again, I'm not I'm not plugging just fauna tonight, but Doug Dorrit, who's Frag Farm, I think he's the only UK approved fauna sort of rep or IC. I think he comments on ICP results for you. He's got a farm, obviously, and him and Claude Schumacher, obviously owner of fauna, they do a 2-hour podcast or video. It's on YouTube. It's worth watching. I'm only halfway through, but there is a kind of a counter argument to what you're just saying, which I never thought of. That apparently, the more often you dose, even though you might say, logically you're thinking, well, it's better to dose something 12 times a day than in just one big go.
Yeah.
What they were talking about, and again, I'm no scientist or chemist, but what they were talking about is every time you dose something, your tank has to adjust to what you've just dosed. And so to keep the equilibrium, stable, it's better to actually dose it once in a larger amount than it is to dose it. That's what they were saying, yeah.
Because you're only asking it to adjust once a week, as opposed to incremental every day. Kind of makes sense.
I suppose if you think of again, I'm only halfway through, so don't. I'm not sitting here tonight, But I suppose if you think about the ocean, the tide going out and then coming in, it's bringing in, a lot of food and a lot of different in one hit. Every time it comes out, it comes in.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But over that 24 hours, there is a routine to it, isn't there? Because I'm thinking, if you tidal, it's going in, going out. So is it different? But over a 24-hour cycle, it's doing the same ish. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, they were talking about the bowling method, and before, this is probably just before my time, before dosing pumps. So you used to put a spoon of something in your tank in one hit. You never used to have the technology.
Yeah.
To have a dosing pump to spread it out throughout 24 hours a day or 12 hours a day. It was literally a spoon of this, mix it up, put it in your tank, one hit. But
how well did they? I mean, I don't never had a tank then, but how easy to keep the tank? I know. I mean, if you look, there's pros and cons, isn't there? And whatever you say on one side, you can probably say on the other. It's definitely. I think it's good if you want to send that link over to me, because it's interesting to hear different views, isn't it? And of course, then
definitely
you can then make up your own view. And actually, they're probably. It could well be that they're both right.
Yeah.
For different reasons, and then you just got to take your pick, haven't you? What works for, as we've said before, you maintain and you work your tank to your lifestyle, your budget, and also how you want to do stuff, don't you? And how hands-on or hands-off that you want to be, I suppose. It's a fair comment. Right, let's see what else we have got here on some comments. Manganese chloride, 1 gram per 100, 500 gram cost me about £7, I think. I'm an ICP skeptic, just want to sell you expensive elements. Yeah, could be right there, John. Just purchased my first acro today from Finest Aquatics.
Nice.
My 2.0.6. I'm assuming that's a water box. So is that 220 gallons, and it's a 6-foot tank. I always get confused on water box, but it does actually mean something. And also put in the chat, what did you buy? Liam, good evening to you. I add magnesium to my blue bucket when I mix, as it always tests around 1280 straight out of the bucket. Okay. Just switched to natural seawater. Oh my god, the difference is insane. In what way, Cottage Reef? Interesting. In what way is it an oh my god? I'm assuming it's positive in an insane way. No, I'd never really noticed the brown residue in a mixing bucket. I've got to say the buckets I use are either yellow or blue. So whether that shows it up very well or not, I don't know. But no, I've never really noticed it. But I have read that some people have had a brown residue with Red Sea. Cottage, I know someone who swore by natural, but one day lost all her expensive coals due to phosphates being off the chart. So maybe best to check a sample. Yeah. Drippy's not happy with you.
Oh, shucks.
Tom, if I bring the PC Rainbow, will you take it down for Drippy? I promise him one. So you're a courier now.
Of course I will. It might be half the size that it was when you gave it me.
Frag, you can chop it in half and then put it back on a frag plug. You'll be none the wiser.
Yeah, of course I will, mate. Yeah, I'll come and see you. I'll send you a text tomorrow.
John, Dungs, who can't see them being accurate when you think of the cheap cost compared with paying a skilled technician to test it. Okay. Daz, you done one of your full marine cups yet? I was very impressed. The analysis and info, not my results, obviously. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Things that make me scratch my head. Mine says dose XYZ, but then do 20% water changes. But surely that would replace all of the trace that's missing. Yes, I would say so. So yeah, it does sound like chasing numbers, doesn't it? And buying lots of bottles. As above, sent off Tuesday, but not heard yet back as they've had holiday this week. It says online, maybe Monday, Tuesday, I'll get the results. Right, let's see what else we've got. Jay's in the chat. So surely little and often everyone is happy.
Was he talking about holidays again?
He doesn't have little and often, does he? Yes, certainly has often. Yeah. 220 gallon, yeah. A yellow millie. Oh, nice.
Yeah, nice.
I think yellow SPS are probably the hardest to look after, because unless
they're hardest to keep yellow.
Yes, that's what I mean. Sorry. So I must admit, I've only had a kind of couple of coals that are yellow, and they tend to turn green, which I know is down to me, the lighting and the flow, and also the your elements as well. Because certainly some of the minor elements, I can't remember what they are, which helps it to keep yellow. I don't think it's potassium. I can't remember.
Well, they don't like a lot of phosphate either. But I think your main ones are going to be like fluoride.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, there we go. It's 210 gallons. It's 6 foot. It is the water box, and it's 1,000 liters. Nice. And I'm assuming that's your that's the tank with you in it. That's on the screen in the bottom left-hand corner.
Oh, I can just see now.
First time using natural seawater, but just filled my tank up to cycle it. Nice. How do you feel about the fag butts in natural sea?
The only thing about the natural sea that I found, and again, I'm not dissing it, was that because it's natural sea and it's not synthetic, there's nothing's elevated. So if you've got quite a lot of corals in your tank, you quite often find that you are going to be chasing numbers because things will deplete quite quickly because it's not elevated.
So basically, you're having to dose more and sooner than you would have to when you've got synthetic.
Yeah, it's not because it's not elevated. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. My sunset millie is green. Yeah. Even enjoying this on my way home. Right. So what else have I got to say?
Jay's sat in the back of the car counting red cars and blue cars, isn't he?
He's also saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet?
He's got a Calippo in one hand and he's counting red and blue cars out the window.
Living the dream. The perfect way home from holiday. There's another comment. The Alk is never the same either, depending on season 2. There you go. I spy with my little eye. Hey Jay, did you have detention in half term?
Oh dear.
Also, when I was away last weekend, I lost a rock nem. So I got home, and the rock nem was in one of the power heads. In all the time I've had a rock nem, which is not a long time, it's about 18 months. They've never climbed the walls, but this one, in the 2 days I was away, it's obviously climbed the wall and gone into the Tunzi powerhead. So I turned the Tunzi powerhead off because it still looked like it was okay because it had lots of colour. And then 8 hours later, it started losing its colour. And I'm thinking, I've pulled it out because you never know with NEMs, do they? They can go off and poison your tank. So I was a little bit gutted, but I've never experienced that before. But it's life, I suppose. That's the risk you have with NEMs. They go walkabouts. But the rock NEM has moved around the sandbed from more than about 3 or 4 inches at a time. But it's only a small tank. But even so, you have to go all the way along the sandbed, up the back, and then decide it likes a power head. But what can you do? Right. Okay. So shall we?
Lee's just commented about the pet he gave me. You know the bristleworm I showed you.
Yeah. So that was that. Oh, of course, that was in the piece of live rock, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's only a foot long.
Yeah. So that's
not more actually.
That's good. Are you keeping that?
I've got a lead for it. I'm going to take it for walks.
Right. So if anyone doesn't know, you've got is it a quarantine tank you've set up?
Yeah, I've just set up a QT tank for the time being before the frag tank's completely up and running. But yeah.
Yeah, and you've got a piece of live rock, I'm assuming, to help cycle it from Lee.
Yeah.
And you've ended up with a bristleworm that looks about a foot long.
It doesn't look it. It's definitely at least. Yeah.
It certainly is a big old. But I think that the thing with those, they do shrink up so small because obviously you would think a foot long, you should be able to see it on a. And how big was the piece of rock?
Probably about 8. Yeah, a big. To be fair, about 18 inches, big piece.
Okay, so it could easily hide. Well, it's a big thing to hide, but 18 inches is a big old piece. So yeah, you've got that, and you're going to use that as cleanup crew, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's going to go in the sump. Yeah.
So you're going to put that in the sump behind you, or is that going to go in the sump where the?
No, it's going in. No, it's going in the garage. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break up some bits of live rock to sit underneath the egg crate in the sump. So I'm going to have the colonies at the top, which will be bare bottom. 2 jacks. I've just got loads of gyres left from the garage before, so 2 gyres opposite ends, top and bottom.
Yeah.
Bare bottom, and then some will be live rock under the egg crate where the frags will be, and that's where any critters. That's when we put some peps in there, some peppermint shrimps. So
nice.
Yeah.
So you calling it Mr. Fluffy?
I'm not going on name my worm. We've got to name my clam. I think name my worm.
Oh, right. Let's move on.
Let's move on before this conversation.
Right. We'll move on before Drippy starts.
Yeah.
He's down to. He was lucky to miss it when he pulled the rock out. Yeah, absolutely. That would have taken quite a bit of sellotape to get the prickles out of that. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Jay saying, "Are we still on about Tom's?"
Tom's worm.
Worm. Yeah, we are. And you know we are, Jay.
It's a grower, not a shower, Jay. Come
on. Right. Okay. So one thing I've noticed with natural seawater is magnesium is low around 1250. I buffer that as I have lots of euphilia, but the tank seems to love it. I think as long as you know that actually comes in with elevated, then actually if you do bigger water changes, then you're going to take everything down, aren't you? In theory, depends on what kind of size you take. Because if you're running things to say 1400, your magnesium, you do a 40% water change, it's going to bring your magnesium down. Not too sure by how much, but in theory, it will lower it, won't it? On the law of averages.
You're the mathematician, Paul. I'll go with what you're saying in the gospel.
It's a bit like your nitrates are higher. You do a water change and it brings your nitrates down. The same must go for other elements. If you're putting in water that has lower readings or lower,
over a period of time, I think you'll be fighting against it, and then you'll end up having to buy a buffer. And then when you had the money of buying the buffer to how much you're paying for natural sea, for me, it just points towards synthetic again. But again, each to their own. But if it's euphilia, probably a lot more forgiving as well.
Yes, that's true. They can usually deal with bigger swings, can't they? In parameters,
definitely.
Sure. I was going to say that. Yeah. So natural seawater. So cottage, is it cheap? I haven't looked into it. Is it cheaper natural seawater than buying a bucket of salt? I don't know if anyone's worked that out. I've got no idea.
If you've got the bucket of salt, but then you've got the RO machine, haven't you? You've got the membranes, you've got the TDS pen, you've got the time, you've got, again, it's what suits people's lifestyles. If he goes and gets it and it works for his tank, then it works for his tank. I'm not going to sit here tonight and say it's wrong. If it works for him, then it works for him.
I'm just trying to think think from a cost comparison, really, more than anything else. Because I hadn't thought about that. Your membranes, because if I have a look, I change the filters quite often because the water I've got is just crap that comes out of the tap. It's like 350. I go through quite a lot of the DI resin.
Yeah.
The cost of the water, I've got no idea. We're on a meter, but it's not something I really look at because you get charged, I don't know, it's 6 monthly or something like that for water. So I've got no idea how much the water costs. Hopefully it's not that much. So yeah, it's a fair point. My magnesium is 1650 for mumps. Is that okay? I don't do water changes, but dose Reef's elements. I would say certainly on the higher side. I must admit, I don't know if high magnesium causes problems because I've never had it before. Have you, Tom?
I've had it at 1500 and it didn't move for 1550 and it didn't move for absolute ages. And I don't know what it was about. I don't know what it was from. That was in the previous tank. But if he's doing Reef's, put my teeth back in. If he's dosing Reef's elements, I'll probably go back on that calculator and just check you're doing the right amount. Yeah. It's part 1 and part 2 anyway.
I would certainly look to bring it down. But I suppose it's one of those where if you got corals, you might be okay. But over time, it might cause a long-term problem to the tank. I don't know is the answer, but I would try and bring it down because it does feel quite elevated. Oh, super chat. Thank you. Or super sticker. That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Critical Reef. Really appreciate that. And also thank you for Scott. I don't have Scott here. He last week was it 3,990 odd pounds.
For mine.
For mine, he sent through the balance, which I transferred over to GoFundMe this week. So we hit the 4,000 mark, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you again, everyone who was there, was contributing and everything else. It's brilliant. But that has definitely reduced the magnesium dosing for a week and see how it goes. Good evening to you. Forgot about it.
Evening, Rob.
Natural salt delivered is Lee compared to LFS synthetic. Not too sure what that means. I don't do mag, just 2-part. So it would be within the 2-part, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Spotless water. Yeah. It's another way of doing it. Peanuts Darren is saying. I test seawater in Egypt in 2015 and magnesium was 1255. A public aquarium at Skeggy pumps it from sea and obviously filters it. Change the filters quite often.
Oh dear.
Oh God, no! Natural seawater is more expensive, but it makes my life easier. It's my life so much easier. And I think the tank is. There we go. To your point, isn't it? It's about how you want to reef. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Love the idea of natural seawater, but it seems easy to just make salt water change batches as I go whenever I need them. Yeah. Usually around 3p per 1,000 litres. The problem with natural seawater, every delivery will be different, unlike if you make it yourself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't high mag cause invert problems. It might well do. Don't know.
Yeah, we just put something on that. I didn't know that.
Because, I mean, inverts are more susceptible to higher elements and nutrients, but also swings in parameters, aren't they? They seem to be anyway. Here you go. One thing to watch out is high mag is inverts and snails don't like it. When natural seawater is too expensive, look into ATI Absolute Ocean Liquid Salt. I've seen that one. I've never heard much about it.
I've not heard anything about that before.
Yeah. Corals seem happy, so I don't know. I only dose 10 mil per day in a 1,000 litre system. Added first acro today, though, so let's see if that consumes anything. I doubt. And one acro in a 1,000 litre, it won't touch the sides, will it?
No, I've had it before when it's high, and it's just sat high for absolutely ages. So it doesn't. Unlike calcium, it doesn't tend to move sometimes when it's really high. It can take a while. Just again from personal experience.
Yeah, I suppose it also depends what corals you got and other stuff, the variables that will consume it.
Well, probably do a water. You could probably do a water change with one that's even the NIOS one that people are talking about. In that's ICP tested into it, so you'll be able to see what that is. That'll bring it down.
Yeah. Fauna Marion will bring a liquid salt by the end of the year. Great minds think alike. £4,000, absolutely blown away.
Brilliant. Natural
seawater in Derby. I tell you what, though, you'd be surprised, Jay, if you look it up. Some people get it, and we've got one that the nearest one to me, I think, is, and maybe one near down in Croydon, which is quite a few miles away. You wouldn't think of natural seawater in Croydon, unless you think it's nowhere near the sea. To fill the 525 up was 167 quid. Me going LFS or even spotless will be more with a
how do you know what else is in that natural seawater? You're going to send an ICP off and it's going to say, all right, it's got all these trace elements in it, but it's not going to tell you if it's got any pollutants in it, is it?
And also, you're going to do that every time you get a batch. Because with the synthetic, it's pretty consistent, isn't it? The way they make it up, whether you get a batch today or you get it in 2 years, another bucket, it's the same, isn't it? The way they make it, unless they change their recipe, which I'm not too sure if they do or not. They were saying about Red Sea changing the way they did it. That was a couple of years ago, but I don't know if that was true. Skegness Sea is very clean, actually, just silty near shore. When I used a jet ski, it was clear a few 100 yards offshore. And then Jay's asking a question, the new salt block. So this is the thing by, is it Reef Factory?
Oh, right. Yeah. I saw something on Facebook. I didn't read the article, though, to be honest with you.
No, I saw a picture of it, and it was just like a pill or a tablet or whatever you want to call it. And then you just, I suppose, you put it in RO.
Back to the raving days, Paul.
What, salt tablet? Back in day. Yes. We move on. The difference in water clarity since I switched to natural seawater is absolutely insane.
Good.
Absolutely. There we go. The company delivers natural seawater nationwide. That's a fair point. You sure it's that high? It might be worth double checking the reading, especially if it was Hannah Mag check. Or maybe take your water to an LFS. Because whilst you've got different brands, will give you a different level.
Yeah.
If it is wrong, that's quite high, isn't it? So that's a fair point about it could be a dodgy test kit. Don't know. Your magnesium only needs to be 3 times your calcium. So
no, I thought the whole point of the Reef's elements was that you put numbers into the calculator and it told you what you needed to dose. It sort of dictates. So you shouldn't get into that situation, I would have thought. But anyway.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, I haven't used it. I've seen some people talk about the calculator, and I miss quite a lot of Joe Friend's talk at Love to Reef. So I don't know. Employed an unnatural seawater. Oh, there we go. It's got a Salifert and a Red Sea one. Both say 1650. They only go to 1500, so I had to add more reagent. Okay. So there's quite a lot here about natural seawater. I used to go collecting Folkestone, Margate. Don't use it no more. Can't collect it, and making my own a lot easier. Delivered to your door. Within sea near me in Cornwall, look crystal clear sometimes, but still not sure. I'd like to stick it in my tank. I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Water in Med is clear, but it isn't all that clean. Right. Oh, we've got one more comment, and I think I'll pass on dangling a bucket off the end of the pier, South End pier. Absolutely, Phil. When I look at the colour of the water, and I'm not too sure it's just silt at South End, it's not something I would volunteer to put in my tank, I've got to say. So I get what you're saying. Right, should we talk about fashion in reefing, of course? Or just generally the catwalk?
Yeah, catwalk. Strike a pose.
Well, of course, if Jay was here, we could talk about, fashion, because he's, he's the Blake icon, isn't he?
He is the Blakely icon. He is.
He certainly is. Right. So fashion. Where should we start? I'll let you start to throw you in.
I was thinking about this earlier, actually. I think what's fashion in reefing versus, I suppose, advancements in sort of like technology in the hobby. So I think fashion for me is something that, is probably people think it's cool to have or do or have bought, or probably doesn't necessarily have a direct benefit. It's more of a fad, a craze.
Yeah.
Would you agree, or do you think?
I don't know, because if I look at kalk, for example, has a lot of benefits. When I came into the hobby, so we're talking about 10 years ago.
What about kalkwasser?
Yeah, so kalkwasser. So I'd heard about it, but there wasn't many people doing it. They wasn't using it. And then all of a sudden, the last couple of years, maybe 3 years, all of a sudden it's got traction. And it seems to have gone through the roof in terms of the number of people that are using it. I think people maybe are using it for a different reason to what it was originally intended for, which was dosing alkalinity. I think people, have been using it to buffer their pH as the primary and the alkalinity as the secondary. And I'm only going by that from what you read and what you see the videos.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the intention always was it was there as alkaline, dosing your elements, your key elements, and it would have the benefit of pH. So for me, I think that's something that's become a fad and come on vogue more than, because it wasn't something that was just kind of people were using. It just got, more popular. It virtually disappeared. Hardly anyone talked about kalkwasser. People would try and sell their kalk stirrers and never get a sniff. Yet if someone tries to sell a kalk stirrer now and it's secondhand, it'll go. Unless they've totally overpriced it, bang, it will disappear. So I think that one, I agree with what you're saying. It becomes a fad, doesn't necessarily have a benefit. But I think something like the kalkwasser is one that certainly I've seen all of a sudden was on YouTube quite a bit, and then it gained traction, and then a lot of people using it.
Yeah.
That is one where I think has made massive benefits. And a lot of people didn't use kalk because there were stories about it, dosing it, there was dumping it into the tank, people using it for the auto top off and basically using it in the wrong way. And of course, a few people using it the wrong way, it goes on social media, it gets a bad rep, and then no one goes there. Oh, don't use kalk, it'll dump into your tank and it'll nuke your tank. So that's one example. And also,
for me,
cheap as well. So just
like what Rob's saying. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
agree. You get a lot of result for not a lot of spend, don't you, with it?
Yeah, and it's a fair point what he's saying here around in fashion. Probably the companies didn't make much money for it. They're not going to push it because there's no money to be made. And all of a sudden, I mean, if you go on an LFS now, and I was saying this the other day, if I go in AAC, the wall space and the number of different supplements that you can get, the number of companies that sell alkalinity, amino acids and all that, it's just nuts compared to how it used to be. I don't see how they all survive. So it's a fair point there around there's no margin in Kalkwasser, is there? There can't be. Or there might be a margin, but you don't come back within 2 or 3 months. So is that the industry taking people away from it? I don't know. So
I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be running it. I've had good results with it. I mean, I'm going to play around with a few other bits as well. Probably the ammonium dosing that I spoke to Josh about ages ago.
Yeah,
I know Rob does. I'll talk to Robert Love to Reef, and you'll have to comment, Rob. I can't remember what it is that you're dosing. He doses a couple of them, but it's definitely something that I'm going to look at. It'll be a hydroxide, I think he doses from memory.
right.
Yeah, again, helps with pH. So
yeah, absolutely. Again, maybe it coincided with, again, we talked about it before. If you go back 3 years plus, hardly anyone talked about pH and the benefit of pH. Yeah. Obviously, people saying, pH, increased growth. Kalkwasser helps to do that. So maybe that's the thing that triggered it. That the people were talking about pH and the benefit of that, which then resulted in people using that, which kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, some of the fashions that were things like magnetic frag racks when they first came out and getting them coloured, all that sort of stuff, getting different coloured ones. Obviously, orange glasses, what else?
Orange glasses, definitely.
Orange glasses. I mean, we all put them on, sometimes. I'm not saying walk right out, so I've got to work in them, but, just look at your tank. I think for me, I'm guilty of so many of them because I've done it. Coloured pipe work. Don't need it, but it looks a bit nicer. And I don't know, a controller board. Again, don't need it, but looks a bit slick and tidy. Like Lee's got that really good orange one that you saw, the Apex one that he's done. Is it necessarily? No, not really. Bit of a fashion accessory, possibly, but I do think they look the nuts as well if they're done right. So
I must admit, I don't. Maybe because I just don't look at Facebook so much as I used to. There used to be loads of pictures of people with all the pipe work and loads of manifolds. So even when they set the tank up, it had 3 or 4 manifolds. But I don't see that so much. Maybe I don't know. Do people use reactors as much as they used to? Reactors used to be.
Oh yeah, you mean hard plumbed?
Yeah, so you had the hard pump from the return pump, and you'd have the manifold coming up, and you'd have all the reactors on the back of it. Which the problem is, you didn't really know what flow was going through it.
No.
So, and if you're tumbling rower foss and other stuff, trying to dial in the rower foss so it's just tumbling and you're not battering it is sometimes an art form, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know if people pay so much attention as they used to the pipe work and the manifolds and everything else. I've never done that. I can never be asked. I must admit, I'm not proud enough to do that kind of thing.
I'd even rock the boat and say that refugiums like used to be like a really big thing, and it was everybody was like fascinated about growing Cheeto more than they were fascinated about growing corals. Don't know why. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
I've got a massive ball of Cheeto that's tumbling while it's ripping all my trace elements out of my water.
yeah.
I'm not saying they don't work; they do work, but yeah, it got a bit crazy. People were, who's got Cheeto to sell, who's selling it, and yeah, it seemed to again just be a bit of a fashion. I'm not saying they don't work. I know people who've got them now and they do
People
work,
love
but
it.
yeah,
Yeah, but also you see the ones where the videos where he's got some flow and it's constantly tumbling.
yeah, tumbling,
Almost
yeah,
like that's the perfect refugium that you got. The light looked fantastic. There's no spill elsewhere. Because that's a pain. I had a refugium, and then you get the spill, and all of a sudden you get all the algae where your skimmer is in the next chamber. So it's not always that easy. But I found it quite challenging at times with a refugium to get it
yeah,
going and to keep it going. Because if you don't tumble it, the underneath dies off, and you start getting die off, but then it creates problems. So you're forever trying to harvest it and everything else. So it can be I found quite a palaver. But you're right, when it works pretty well, and it can really consume a lot of the elements,
yeah,
for sure, all your nutrients out. I think in terms of corals, and Jay's put this about zoas, I've got to say,
definitely,
there was a
yeah,
time, there were some Facebook groups where they had auctions. There was about
yeah,
3 or 4 of them. And it was just crazy. The amount, I think because it was an auction, people were just easily spending 150, 200 pound a polyp. And I don't know if it coincided with Facebook they stopped you selling corals, didn't they, on
yeah,
Facebook? And all of those kind of marketplace and auctions just disappeared.
yeah.
And zoas are really popular, but I don't see anywhere near as many people selling zoa polyps for 150, 200, 100. You can if you really look, but they're nowhere near as prevalent as they used to be. So I
And I
think
think that
zoa.
some of that, yeah,
Sorry,
some of that's going to be supply and demand, and some of it is literally like the what's the latest fashion or fad. I was saying this to Drip the other day because I ordered a few small frags the other week off that mail order corals who'd got a discount on for the bank holiday. And one of the corals I ordered, which everybody's going to be like, "Oh, what have you ordered that for?" Was a green stylo, like an emerald shimmer green stylo. And
yeah,
like, back in the day, they were like the thing to get because you
they
always
were
could
hard
get.
to get.
They were really hard to get, and they were like going for quite a lot of money. And the point I'm making is that it was back then it was fashionable and everybody wanted it, and now it's not, so it's cheap. It's still over the coral.
Yeah,
In
I
my
remember when I first started out, Utter Chaos, I think, were fairly new at that time,
yeah,
and they were really expensive. And then
yeah,
they become cheap as chips, and then quite recently they've been quite hard to get hold of. I mean, I managed to get a couple of polyps off of someone, whereas before I could say who's got Utter Chaos, and you get inundated with people.
yeah,
When I
yeah,
was looking for them, you couldn't. But then I think it's a bit like some of the acros. I think we said this before. Things like Red Planet and some of the I can't remember the name of it, the pink tabling acro. Some of those are actually quite hard to get hold of now, whereas people used to have, certainly locally, I could get those easily. I try and find a Red Planet now. I've got to try and search around and wouldn't necessarily be able to get it local. Not that I think they
yeah.
was a fad. I just think less people seem to be keeping those kind of what I would call bread and butter SPS, but they're not bread and butter anymore. I don't think.
Yeah, yeah.
They're quite hard to get hold of. There's a comment there about sodium hydroxide.
That's the one. Yeah,
Yeah. I first used kalk maybe 15 years ago. It definitely seems more commonly used lately. I think it's due to more accessible social media where people can show the results. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is a link to the pH as well. How bloody dare you, Tom? I think that's in terms of his cabinet and everything else. And I think that's to your point. People buying fashionable corals and forgot how amazing many older, not popular corals are. Absolutely. Absolutely. Some of the, I think Setosa and SPS, which is a Monty, I think it's a really, because you don't get that many orange corals. and it really pops under blue. Fairly easy to look after. I wouldn't say indestructible, but as an SPS, really hardy. And I think
it used to be really expensive a frag, didn't it? It used to be like 40, 45, 50 pound a frag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mind you, though, I can remember they've got some at Fit Filtration where Alex works every now and again, and they've got like Jedi Mind Trick, Monty.
Yeah.
They're like size of small dinner plates, and nobody's buying them because it's not the latest craze. But when they first came out, they were like, what, 70, 80 pound a frag?
There was a whole group of them, wasn't there? The Mind Tricks. There was, I'm trying to think.
Your Kung Pao, Beach Bum, Tropic Thunder, all them.
Yeah.
Named.
There was about 8 or 9 of them. I think they brought them in from America, didn't they, in flasks?
Yeah.
I think that's how they got here. And they were easily 80 quid for a frag that was probably the size of your normal frag plug. So what, 3 centimeters? And as you say, they grow fairly easy. They're abundant, and people are not interested in them, but they're really nice corals. You put those with, say, a green painted Monty, and you get that contrast in colour. They're lovely corals. I think for me, torches was one of the one that I noticed. You know, when lockdown came, and it coincided when we started the live streams, and oh my god, you couldn't get a torch for under 100 quid. And then you had things like the Hellfires, and even some of the gold torches were way above 150 quid a head. And now you can get a gold torch for, you can see them 50, 60 quid. Still expensive, don't get me wrong, but nowhere near as much as they were, I would say.
Yeah.
And then you got Goniopora. They're definitely in at the moment, aren't they? I think.
I know Jay loves them. It's not a coral I look at, but I think, you know, I have to stop myself from falling foul of his, you know, stuff because it's named. You know, is it a nice coral? Yes. You know, so buy it, not because it's called something. I think it's almost doing the rounds again, especially the acros and some of the LPS. It's doing the rounds of what we were talking about a minute ago about Zoas, and it'll get to a point where they'll get to a point in, again, I don't know, 3 years time or however long, you know, in the future, where because people aren't buying it and people don't want it, the value of it just plummets. So you might have spent £100 on a frag, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, and brought this beautiful colony, but unfortunately, because it's not the latest craze, you probably can only get half the value you could have got 2 or 3 years ago. And that's why I think, I'm talking about myself here. I've got a few nice ones, but equally I've got some what I would class as equally nice corals as the higher end ones, just because I think they look nice. The growth formation, the colour, and I'm going to like it in another 2 or 3 years time, not because it's called something.
Yeah,
I'm making any sense.
I bought a piece of undata, so it's a Monty, nothing special, green, and it's got kind of light blue polyps on it, and it's grown from about, I don't know, 1.5 centimeters, and now it's quite a big chunk, about 5-6 inches in diameter, and I absolutely love it. I think one, because I've nurtured it from a really small piece, and also I look at it and think that's a really nice coral, but people would look in the tank and they wouldn't really notice it. But it's, you know, but to me, that's a really nice coral. It's nice and chunky. You put it next to something like Satosa or something, and you get a really nice contrast in terms of colour. And that's to me kind of bread and butter. But if I was to frag it and try and sell it, people wouldn't be interested in it, which is to your point. Certainly Monty seem to go in and out, don't they? Again, they were really popular, as you say.
I mean, the thing again with fashion, and again, I'm no sort of catwalk pundit, but what I'd say again with corals is that in another 12 months time, it will be in fashion and the price will go up again. It's just
And this is a good point. Is ICP and microdosing trace elements the latest fashion?
That's what we were talking about earlier. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. It's certainly, as we said before, Triton were pretty much the only ICP company in the country. If you go back, there probably was others, but Triton's the only one that comes to mind. And now they're 10 a penny, aren't they? Right, Darren, I'm the only one who didn't jump on the torch fashion. I still only have one. Don't do well with torches. I tell you what, some people say torches are easy. They're not. They all of a sudden they can bow really easy. If you get brown jelly, it's a lot of work to try and fight the brown jelly and to for them to survive. There we go. Fashions only brings more expense. Salim Clemens' latest video shows his tanks run on a budget and growing coals. Yeah. And I think we said before, you can, it's not a cheap hobby, but you can make it relatively cheap compared to if you go all in with all the latest kit and the latest things, can't you? Most definitely. For stickheads, golden nuggets, pink lady. Not heard of those. Have you heard of them, Tom?
Yeah, I've got a piece of golden nugget from him. It's not as golden as I'd like it to be, Tim. I'm going to talk to you about that. But yeah, it's still alive. Pink lady, I've not seen though.
I'm assuming they're acros.
Yeah, it sticks. Yeah. Tim knows. Tim's the chap who came to us for my sleepover, as we keep calling it. And he does his own trace elements. Yeah, definitely a knowledgeable guy. So yeah, hit him up if you want to know how to mix your own.
Okay, that's both the alkalinity and
yeah, he does everything himself. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And he's got a stick tank, and it looks good. Looks really good. So yeah, he knows what he's doing. 30 years under his belt. So lad.
Nice one. My urchins grabbed a few heads of utter chaos. It's been taking them around the tank for the last few weeks. A torch tray seemed to die down. Also, rainbow chalices. Yeah, absolutely. Rainbow chalices. I think because they're so slow to grow, there was a lack of supply in the UK for quite a while. But now all of a sudden, it's not difficult to find a rainbow chalice. So of course the price comes down, doesn't it?
But I'd also say that like one of the first, I don't think the first light I had on my tank had a blue setting. It was just literally daylight on and off, like a light switch. And as soon as the blue thing came out, and everybody wanted to see what the coral looked like under blues, then it was kind of a fashion in itself. I don't know, we're still doing it now, but it's part of a program on a light these days. But yeah, I think a lot of corals have been sold under the blue spectrum than the white spectrum. That's for sure. Especially you see them on Instagram and whatnot.
Yeah,
orange filters and everything else. Yeah,
and it's hard on Instagram or any kind of photography, isn't it? Because you don't know what saturation is on there. If you've got some egg crate and it's white egg crate, you can usually tell what the saturation is like.
Exactly.
Because the egg crate is purple quite more often than not, isn't it? And I think that's due to the Indo farms polluting the market once they picked up in popularity, and obviously take some time to grow them. Acros now all in the shops have some stuff in every week. Yeah, it's a fair point. Yeah, the market was definitely flooded by Indo. Many reefers say that when they have visitors, they are all amazed at sea. I mean, that was my first ever coral, was the pulsing xenia, along with a zoa. And I've got to say, they are mesmerizing when you see them and you turn off the flow and they're just there. I think it's a superb coral, but like anything, they grow too quick and they can easily become a weed, can't they?
I'm sure xenia is good for phosphate, though, isn't it? From memory.
Yes.
So people used to put it in a sump, didn't they, and grow it?
Yeah, I think it's GSP as well.
I don't know about GSP.
Definitely xenia. I've seen people that they put that in and it helps soak up the elements. It does pull phosphate out. I'd hope GSP, but I'm not 100% sure of that. I've got some massive colonies that no one will be interested in, as they are deemed as basic, but when big, they look impressive. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree. I had a massive purple stylo, looked absolutely fantastic. And if you can get the right flow on something like that, when you got flow from all sides, you get a really nice kind of flower shaped. But if you get it where you've got a coral in front of it, they start looking a bit deformed. Yeah. I mean, you can't get much more basic than a purple stylo, can you? I think as an SPS, but it's
I think big colonies of Duncans and candy canes look good. especially the yellow ones, the luminous yellow candy canes.
Yeah. Oh, they look superb. I don't know if you saw the picture of it in the last tank that was there. It was a foot wide, and it started off from one polyp, and it was high up in the tank. It was absolutely fantastic. I had a number of times I had to frag it, but it was nice, easy one to look after. What's this? A Greek cottage. I've got one and a half Ceratopia. Stylo, impressive but massive now. Forever snapping pieces off and binning it. The problems with Stylo, I find they're quite hard to snap off because the branches become so thick. They're quite bare bottom. Is that a fashion?
I don't know about your love life, Jason.
I don't think so. Do you? I mean,
I think it was a craze. I do think he's right. It was a craze because it was something that I'd never even thought about. Yeah, definitely it was. Again, pros and cons, each to their own.
I find that if people are going to go SPS dominant, they're more likely to go bare bottom because they don't have to then worry about how you position the flow and creating a sandstorm. Yeah. Right, let's have a look. What else we have got? Triton was when you didn't do water changes to the IB test, was to test what elements they had been used and needed replacing. Yeah, that's fair enough.
But they also were all got everybody doing refusions and chasing it in York, weren't they? Had to be at 8 from memory.
Yes. Yeah, it was quite specific, wasn't it? Then they started bringing out different. You could do Trident without the refugium because to begin with, the refugium was the key, weren't it?
Yeah.
And then I can't remember the name of it was, but you had the other elements that could do without it.
Core.
Yes, the one. Yeah.
Oh.
Well remembered. Yeah. Tridents. Yeah. Who's going Aqua? Is it Aqua H? So we was talking about this the other day, weren't we? So I think Jay's going. Are you going now, Tom?
Don't know what dates. What day is it?
I can't remember. Is it 16th, 17th? Let me look it up. I can't remember. So I had a ticket originally for the April date, and then obviously got moved to September. And I don't know if I can go or not. So if I can go, then I will. So it's the 21st and 22nd of September. I go 21st. So if I go, it'll be on a Saturday. I won't go on the Sunday. But I won't know till probably the end of June if I'm going or not. I think Steve said he's going to try and go, I think. But he's got to try and book time off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I want to go because it'd be great if the four of us went.
Yeah, it'd be nice to meet everybody, carry on meeting off to Reef, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I said hello to people. And let's face it, I saw you, Tom. We had a quick chat, but we didn't really catch up that much. And the same with Jay and the same with Steve. So it'd be nice to spend the whole day with you guys.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Go as hobbyists, or go as a hobbyist to a show.
Yeah, definitely.
That'll be good. So Jay's going. He said that already. And Gaz's Reef is going. Lee is hopefully going. So, yeah, it should be a good day, hopefully. I hope they'll get more vendors on board and fill out the whole.
Where's it at?
Stoneleigh, which is Stoneleigh? Oh, no, yeah, Stoneleigh, which is Kenilworth, which is not far away from the NEC. I think it's about 30 minutes away from there, but it's in that kind of area. So Darren's away from that. Really hoping with AAC pulling out, others don't follow.
Yeah.
Hope so. I mean, since I think the last week there's been 2 or 3 added. So Prestige has been added. Aquaology have been added, which I think they are wholesalers. So they're going to be there.
Yeah, Aquology Arts, where Jake went, who used to work at Finest.
Yeah.
Just looking now on the website.
I don't think it's up to date.
All right. Okay.
In terms of, unless they've updated it recently, let me have a look. In terms of who's going to be there, I can't see who the vendors are actually. I'm going onto the home page and they've changed it. Oh, yes, I can. I can see who the vendors are. So you got Aquaprint, Exodus, Red Sea, BC UK, TMC, Cade.
Yeah.
And then you got some of the brands. So they've broken out Exodus into you kind of
Separate
Nios,
brands.
Ecotech,
Yeah.
those
Cade,
kind of
yeah.
ones. So I think there's some others joined, but they haven't updated the website. They've taken AAC off. And there's some logos on there, ones that I just don't know who they are. So there's one that's got 3 fish on there. And it's blue and yellow, but I've got no idea what company that is.
No, me neither.
So they've changed. So you've actually got a floor plan now. So let me see. Let me see if I can bring it up a minute, rather than, because the plane kind of give us a clue. They've changed the website the last few days. Let me have a look. If I can load the website. Right. Let's see if I can share. Just bear with me. Right. So let's take that comment off. So you can see there where everyone is, but also you can see how many spaces there are.
All right. Yeah.
You can see that. So obviously where you've got if you're on a small screen, where you've got a kind of a bright
turquoise,
blue or turquoise, that is where there's spaces, and then all the others are filled. So at the moment, would you say that? I wouldn't say that was half full, would you?
No.
So I know there's some to add, but you can't see the details. So I'm hoping by the time the show comes around, that is pretty much full, because at the moment that is not half full.
We'll just have a massive sleepover.
We can we all take our sleeping bags? So you can organise that, can you? You can organise a
we'll organise sleepover, aqua sleepover 24. Yeah. makes more of a weekend of it. Trust me, it's good. Good laugh.
Absolutely.
You're on the other end of it this time round. Anyway, you were organising everything like Challenge Annika, bless you, the week.
Like what? Sorry.
Challenge Annika.
Oh right, yeah. It was busy on the day. I must admit, I wasn't very stressed on the day because I everything was planned.
3 weeks planning
thinking, is something going to go wrong? And touch wood, I don't think anything went wrong other than the teas and coffees, which that I could live with that. But yeah, it would be nice having nothing to think about and nothing to take. Just turn up,
exactly,
and enjoy. Let's see. Well, I'm staying in a hotel for the night. Prestige is staying over after the event, and also Reef Dog, I've heard. Lots of empty spaces. Yeah, there is a moment. Hopefully they will fill it. I was going to buy a stall for Salty Swagger, but a bit dubious with the amount of retailers really is going to live up to the hype. It's a difficult one, isn't it, to actually know whether they'll sell out or not from a vendor point of view. I mean, the hall's quite big, so they could sell thousands upon thousands of tickets and it'll be fine. Let's face it, Love to Reef was 200 people and there could have been a lot more people in the hall. Not too sure about guest speakers. We probably could have sold about another 50 tickets, maybe a bit more, and the guest speaker thing wouldn't have been over full.
I think you did it right, because if you wanted the quiet and the concentration of the speaker, we're going to sit and listen to it. But if you want to stand and talk to somebody in a hall who you've not seen, or catch up with somebody or whatever, you still have the freedom to move and have those conversations without getting in the way of people that were trying to look at a stall. So I think you got the balance right, mate, to be honest with you.
I think learn from the year before and seen other shows where you got the talks in the same place as the vendors. It's unfair on everyone, because if you're sitting there listening to someone, you don't want to hear someone rabbiting into left of you when they're talking to a vendor. if you want a vendor, you want to be able to speak to someone who wants to ask about your product. And if you're a paying punter, you don't want someone saying shush. You think, hang on a minute, I'm here to go and speak to that. And if you're a speaker and you're speaking and people are off to your left and right and they're speaking, you think they're bloody rude because I'm speaking and it's no one's fault. It was just, in hindsight, probably a crap idea to do it that way. So that was the main reason. And all the feedback from the vendors and the speakers and everyone else said that balance was really, really good. And also, I know some people didn't go and listen to a talk because they wanted to go and speak to maybe AAC or someone else, and they could have 15 minutes of AAC without being interrupted because there were people in the hall, but there wasn't masses of queues. So I think
whether it sells out or whether Aqua sells out or not, it can only be a positive, even if it isn't, or if it is or isn't as good as Love to Reef. And the more frequent these events take place, the only people, I suppose the main people are going to benefit is the hobbyists. Obviously, wholesalers and trades are as well. But for me, it's growing the community, isn't it? Which is what it needs.
Absolutely. I think it'll be very different. It's, if you look at it, it's salt water, it's fresh water. I think it's reptiles as well. Very different. I must admit, when I went to Vivarium in Holland, I loved walking around the fresh water and seeing what was on there. And they was doing all scapes and all that kind of stuff. So it was a really different experience, but really enjoyable. So that would be really good to see that. I mean, it's massive in terms of, you're talking about a massive hall, loads of vendors. So it's on a completely different scale.
These things need to happen for other people to get wind of it, and then hopefully there'll be a third, and there'll be a fourth. And it'll become more, more of a regular thing. Yes, some will be, better than others for whatever reason. We'll get bitches as hobby can be, but looks really great. It'd be nice to meet everybody again at Aqua and have another good day out or whatever. And hopefully there's something else in the future. So
I mean, I started doing it because I was really pissed off about the fact nothing was happening. Not even trade shows, because I used to use Fish Palace Limited to get me a trade show ticket.
Right.
To get to the original Aqua. I used to go to the trade shows because there was nothing on, and blag a ticket that way because there was nothing else to see. So I love going to shows. So as far as I'm concerned, the more the merrier. And I started it because nothing was going on. So if there was loads and loads of shows and I didn't have to do another show at all, I'd be happy with that, because I did it for a purpose that I was putting my money where my mouth is, because people were moaning and no one was prepared to do anything.
I mean, obviously, Jeremy Gay talks about us and the Americans, and we are significantly further, behind than the Yanks in terms of these sort of things. So it's not going to happen overnight. But for me, I'd like to think the majority of people that I spoke to, the highlight of the day or the weekend was meeting up with each other, which it's hard to do, over a phone or through Instagram or an app or even a live stream. It's even better to do it in person.
Absolutely. And John, I did actually enjoy it, but I enjoyed it for different reasons. I enjoyed it because I think it went well. I enjoyed it because there seemed to be a buzz. I enjoyed it because all the vendors' feedback was really, really good, and they all got benefit from it. Those people that were selling made money. So that was, I wanted enough people there so the vendors could get benefit from it and they could make money, because they're commercial ventures, and I wanted them to make a profit from it, despite the fact I wasn't making a profit, but made decent amount. We made decent amount of money, so I did enjoy it, but for very different reason. So I missed out on talking to people, but I could see there was a buzz, and to me that was the best thing.
You made an impact, mate, and that's all it needs. You just need somebody to do that, and you did it. So fair play to you. And let's hope that it carries on.
Yeah, I hopefully it will. I mean, I'm not going to do anything. I probably won't even think about anything till October, November time. If it happens, then it'll be May next year. I like May. I think the weather's good, because if people sell corals, you don't want it too hot, and you can't have it too cold, because the cold water will just kill the coral. It's a nice time of the year because it's before the summer. And so people are still interested in the hobby. So yeah, May for me is the perfect time to do it. I did one in September and struggled to sell tickets over the summer because we find the number of people that watch this in the summer goes down because people got other things to do, haven't they? Holidays.
Going on holiday for a start.
You got other hobbies if the weather ever improves, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people are just turning over their tank and not doing anything over the summer, aren't they? So May's a good time because it's easier to sell the tickets in that run up to May. September's a pig because July, August, it's really difficult to sell tickets, I find. But there we go. Scott's with us.
Evening.
Beachside restaurant in Tenerife. Oh, fantastic. Sounds good.
Enjoy.
Tees Reef is going too. His place is amazing. I heard good things of him. He's quite local, isn't he? He's Birmingham. Yeah. Love to Reef and the guys I met. As you say, the sleepover. Loads of people know about the sleepover, even if they weren't there. So I think it is about meeting people, isn't it? And then having a good crack. And the frag swap seemed to go down well. With well over 100 corals were swapped, given away. I think I've heard that they're doing a frag swap at Aqua as well. But we will see. Right, what else have we got? Yeah, outdone my Reef for 300. Got that. See you in May 2025. I can't guarantee it, but I hope so. I always said if it sells out, I enjoy it. The people who visit enjoy it, and the vendors enjoy it and want to come back. And I've got not a waiting list, because that sounds really grand, but I've got people who wanted to be there and couldn't because it just wasn't big enough. So in that respect, it ticks all the box. The only thing is, it takes a lot of time, and YouTube, I don't do any YouTube other than live streams, and my tanks suffer. So I've got an outbreak of cyano, which I'm trying to battle at the moment. I didn't cover that earlier on, and that's probably as a result of neglecting the tank. So I have to try and find a different way of doing it. But we will sleep over 2025, top and tail with Drippy and Tom. You have to book out the whole. I was thinking, do you book out the whole hotel? So do you have a pre-evening, so the night before?
Yeah, exactly. It was good. Yeah, exactly.
There's a function and a
outdoor barbecue, big barbecue, something like that. Outdoor.
There's a sleepover. Put the tents up and your sleeping bags and around the campfire.
And then the day after, we have to have a shirt off with John, because if John's going to Aqua H, I'm going to try and beat him with his shirt.
I tell you what, he stole the show, didn't he, with his shirt? For sure. Great value.
Oh, dear.
And then Darren says copycats. Hey, I tell you what, frag swaps work. It worked on the Reef. Darren, you was there in the first one, and it was brilliant, the reaction. I didn't know what reaction there would be to a frag swap as it happened. And it was probably the first one went well, but the frag swap was the highlight. And how about saving some money? And the number of corals that are given away, that's the thing I'm always surprised. There's a couple of guys, I think it's Rich, and there's 2 or 3 that come along and they'll give away at least 10, 15, 20 frags at Love to Reef. If people want their first SPS and stuff like, they can pick them up, which to me, I think that's what the hobby's about still. I know we've talked about this, Tom, haven't we, about people giving away frags. I mean, I still, in one of the tanks, I'm a forever fragging the Hystrix and the Green Monty. And I say to people, just come around, I break a piece off. I'm not going to put it on a frag plug. I ain't got the room and I can't be asked. But you come around, I'll snap a piece off. You can have it for free. And if you kill it, you can have another piece. Now, whether you kill it because I haven't snapped it off. With SPS, they survive.
Yeah. I think the best thing especially with not just sticks, but corals in general, is if you frag them and you give them to somebody else that you know, and you have a problem with your tank, you can get a frag of it back, and keep that coral, keep it in the circle. Yeah,
I've got that with them when I close down the big. There's at least, I think there's 4 or 5 people I've given quite a few frags, and there's you do it, frag it, sell it on, but hopefully you keep it alive. If I have a problem, then I can just take a frag back from you. on that, and I think that then
Yeah.
carries on the gene pool as well, doesn't it? And insulates the hobby a little bit, which is great.
And hopefully it prevents the price of it going stupid because there's only one person in the country that's got it.
Absolutely, and that's what a lot of people used to do with the Zoas, didn't they? And you see that with the Stratosphere, I think it is. There was a small number of people that had them, and they were selling them for about $250 a polyp. Now the price is coming down because they can't hold on to them because they need to sell them, and of course then people are Zoas, unless you've got some that are melters like hallucinations, which are awful. But if they don't melt, then they soon become really, really cheap because they usually pop heads, don't they? Enjoying it. Look forward to next year. Reefers code.
Definitely. Yeah.
I agree. Absolutely. People that give frags away are true hobbyists. And around where I am, I don't know, be interested to see what people say. Around where I am, there is quite a few people that still give away frags, but they'll only give away frags to people that they know. So it's not like a closed shop, but they've had it before where people come around, take the frags, and end up selling them on, which is poor form. But people do that.
Well, to be fair to Tim, that got blue light on. Me and Drippy are calling it the green alien because we don't even know what type it is. He gave me that for free, bless him, because it was too big for his tank.
And that looks a big old piece in your tank.
Oh, it's a
tank
big
is
piece.
Huge.
Big piece. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have a few LPS I'm holding for a guy until he sets his tank back up. All part of the hobby. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm hoping to carry on frag swapping throughout the year on the WhatsApp. I've got a Dremel en route, so we'll have some LPS now and DL25 all being well with the tank. Yeah, are you on the WhatsApp group for Love to Reef? I can't remember, Tom.
Me?
Yeah.
I am, but I silenced it because it was waking me up at like 3 a.m. So my missus was going absolutely sick because like my phone was vibrating that much because there was, I don't know which guy it is. All fair play, but anything that went up, I'll have it, and my phone just kept pinging all the way through the night. So it got silenced. I'm afraid I've not been on it for a few weeks.
So there's, I think it's 119 people, which is quite a lot. But I'm just amazed that it's still. I mean, it doesn't have anywhere near as many posts as well before because of the frag swap, and after. So it's settled down now. And there's some posts every day, so it's manageable. Because even I was looking at thinking, oh my god, there was this guy pinging, but it was for the frag swap, so I kind of get that.
Yeah.
But there's people giving away corals still and stuff like that. So if anyone who went to Love to Reef who's not on that WhatsApp group, then let me know. John left before the show. I think he'd had enough of all of the messages, which I totally get. And Jay left last year because he had because he had too much coming through. He had one of his hissing fits about it, and that was a lot smaller than it was this year. But there we go. We'd be happy to share frags around with anyone, just not geared up to ship corals. All my notifications are off on all platforms for that reason. I got given my first SPS from a guy I got some Zoas from. Absolute legends. He gave me the confidence I could grow. Absolutely. I think if you never kept SPS before, that it seems like the holy grail, doesn't it? So, and you think, oh, do I want to kill it? Do I want to spend some money? So if someone gives you a really hardy SPS frag that's been in their tank for a while, you've got a really good chance of surviving.
That's it. Definitely, if it's come out of somebody else's tank, it's going to be a lot harder in most cases. You're going to have chances you'll have more success than if you just bought it out of a shop that's flipping it.
Yeah. So if someone comes to you and said, what would be the first SPS to get as your first SPS, what would you recommend? So I just put you on the.
I'd probably say your Ceratopora or your Guttatus or Milka. Yeah, Stylo.
Yeah, I would definitely say Stylo. Mine was a purple Stylo, was my very first SPS. And also a Setosa as well.
Okay. See, the reason why I like, and this again sounds a bit weird, but the reason why I like the stylo and things
Yeah.
that are quite fluffy, I've got a purple stylo piece in here for two reasons. One, because it's a classic,
Yeah.
and it's a very vivid purple.
Like it.
But the main reason I put it in is because I used it in the early days of setting this up. Well, not that early. It's only been going 7-8 months, but it's a good indicator coral. So the point I'm making is that, like, if you've got a mixed reef, your LPS are going to sulk and they'll tell you that there's something wrong with your water.
Yeah,
Your indicators, your Duncans and things will sulk. Again, just from my experience. So with sticks, it's slightly different, because I know people are going to say, well, sometimes it's too late and the damage is done. But if you've got a coral that, like a stylo, that can give you clear signs if it's not happy, then you know that quite often everything else is not going to be happy. If I'm making any sense whatsoever. So it's a bit of a traffic light, with your tank.
Absolutely. Yeah, because they're really fluffy, aren't they, Stylopora? And when they've got the hump, they just go completely, I suppose.
Well, they retract everything, don't they? It's like a twig.
Yeah, they go smooth skin, and you can just see where the fluffiness should be, don't they? But yeah.
I think if you can get one of those and it's fluffy and it's basing and you're getting white tips on it, then you can, try other ones. But that's the one for me, definitely stylo.
I tell you, there's nothing better than seeing an SPS with a white tip, because you're going in the right direction, don't you?
Exactly.
It's like, and then it's and it's growing. So yeah, there's a couple people saying there you got stylo, Montes. Someone said to me about Hystrix. I find sometimes Hystrix can be hit and miss.
The thing I've always found with Hystrix is it's always been dependent on having the right flow, because they'll grow without a lot of flow, but then they'll reach a point where they tend to find that they go really brittle, and you tend to get a lot of, like, the recede from the inside out, and you'll get like bubble algae will collect and lots of other, like, detritus, and they tend to get the face on if there isn't flow through it because of how they grow. The pattern, it's quite dense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you do find that if they're doing well, they'll have thicker branches on them.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult, I think, to stop the middles from going white, either from shading or, to your point, I think it's more flow than shading, because the light should get through, because they are quite thin, aren't they? So they probably need fragging back. Because I've got a pink one that's in the 170 and it's beginning to recede in the middle. So I think I might start fragging it back, because if you frag it back, they'll easily turn from white to pink again. It's not as if with those, when they go white, they don't tend to die off unless the whole thing's gone. You tend to find, the longer it is still of the color it should be, it'll come back.
And then again, like Cotty's put there, Monty Cap,
Yeah. I mean, I had a purple Cadbury, and good as gold, grown for a small piece, massive plate, and all of a sudden just went.
I've struggled with the purple one before. I've struggled with the Cadbury one before, years ago. Yeah. I see you're just going to be careful where you place them.
Yeah.
Because they can be really invasive.
It was, actually. I mean, it was, how old was it when it died? I must have had it in a tank for 2.5 years. It's not as if it was like 6 months and all of a sudden it took a turn, but it was invasive. In a way, it was a shame it died. In a way, it wasn't, because it was just growing over everything. It was, whereas the green ones, I don't find grow as quickly. Probably depends on the parameters, doesn't it? The purple one was just taking over, and I was actually chopping lumps off of it, putting stuff above it so it would shade, so it wouldn't grow anymore.
Yeah,
that kind of thing, almost like putting a kind of an overhang above it so it would stop it growing. Just a nightmare. But I think that's a good choice on the Stylopora, because they are hardy, aren't they? They're quite difficult to kill as an SPS.
Yeah, and like I said, like I keep saying, it's going to give you some indication if it's happy or not, and therefore if everything else is going to be happy or not. So,
is it normal for SPS to grow more on softies and LPS?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think certainly the Cadbury plating was growing faster than any coral. My green Monty in the other tank was growing quicker than anything else. it depends, doesn't it, on how the tank's set up, your flow, but also what else you're growing as well, to be fair.
And your parameters,
Yeah.
your pH, and you know, it'll sound like a stuck record. Definitely, I've seen stuff. I've seen acros grow every week. Like I took a photograph every Saturday or every Sunday.
Yeah.
Only little bits, but you can see little shoots, little nubbins. And again, I love it because, again, as sad as I am, I'll look back on photos and I can see the growth, and it sort of incentivizes you. You know, you're on the right path.
Yeah, and I think this is a fair point. I think most of the lights we buy today,
1000%.
I don't think anyone should struggle with the light unless they've got a deep tank, because virtually, you know, you buy a light that's 8 or 9 years old. Like I got the Radian Gen 3, that grows things really, really well. Whereas flow, I think it becomes more challenging the more a tank grows out. I mean, you, with the flow you've got, when those colonies start growing out, you're going to be scratching your head around how do I change the flow and everything else. I think on a mature tank, flow is really difficult to maintain and to stop stuff from dying off. I didn't realize how difficult it was until you come up, until your tank's grown out.
Yeah. I would definitely say something I've learned over the last few years was definitely flow over anything else in terms of your equipment and your setup for your tank. Definitely. Yeah, and that's why I've probably got too much now, but it's better to have too much. You can slow it down and then ramp it back up again when you need it. Because the last thing I want to be doing is when this has grown out, start breaking, putting your hand in your tank, start breaking your favorite colonies up because you're trying to put a power head somewhere that you can't get or you can't reach.
I think the biggest mistake I made in the 5-foot tank was not being brutal enough with the housekeeping. So what I mean by that was I should have fragged stuff more often. So I mean, I allowed some stuff to grow out of control. The SPS grew into one another. They entwined. It was really, really difficult, and therefore the middle started to die because of the flow. And actually, the tank would have been a lot better had I'd trimmed the. It's no different to a garden when you have trees and you have bushes. An apple tree, you cut out the middle of it, so you let the light and the wind and everything else, and you get better fruit. And that's what I should have done with that. So any tank where it starts overgrowing and the 170 heads of flowing aquascape, I'm going to start trimming the stuff back, even if I have to bin some of the frags, because I think longer term I've got a better survival rate of those corals. So otherwise it'll just get really messy.
Yeah,
I think it's a combination to get the flow. I think as people are saying about adding more flow, I think also being brutal with your housekeeping, because you cut it back, say half, it'll grow back.
But I also think some corals, you again, SPS, LPS, you've got a sweet spot where they want to be with the light and with the flow. And sometimes, like Tim's putting on there about, it can be like watching paint dry. I completely agree. I've had frags that have not moved, as in grown, for months and months and months. And then I've had other ones that I've placed and they've shot up like a rocket within a few, within 3 to 6 months, they've doubled. I think, there's like we always talk about range when it's parameters and, nutrients and whatever else. I think there's a certain, as we know, you wouldn't put a torch coral necessarily right at the top of your tank under your lights, would you? There's a range of where it wants to go, and other corals such like.
I'm laughing because in the floating aquascape, that's exactly what I've done. But
it depends on what intensity your lights are as well.
Yeah, and the intensity is quite low for that reason, because it's the floating aquascape. I haven't got much real estate, and it's higher up, and it wasn't that high, but because it's grown up and it's grown out, the intensity is no more than about 35-40%, and that's on an old light. So it's a Gen 3. I couldn't put a Gen 6 in now on 30 or 40%. It would nuke it. But I was aware of that, and obviously I've done the intensity that suits that. But absolutely, but it seems to love it in terms of where it is. That's for sure. And I find also some SPS takes ages for it to base out, and then once it's based out, bang, it takes off, and it can just take months for them to base out for no rhyme or reason. And all of a sudden, I don't think it takes time to adjust. I don't know.
I'm sure it was Abe off Coral Euphoria who said ages ago, he did a video and he was basically saying that he found that placing them at an angle was a lot more encouraged growth a lot more than just straight down. And I think there was something to do with flow as part of that sort of.
That's right. Well. Was it 45 degrees? It It wasn't kind of like a
it wasn't. No, it wasn't 180. It was 45. Yeah.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense. Yeah, because the stick I'm talking about is bolt upright, and now I'm thinking if I put it at that 45 degrees.
Yeah. He just said that he found it encouraged, growth a lot more than if he just sat. He could just sit upright for a lot longer and nothing happened. So
yeah, that's a fair point. Some frags puddle for months, and then suddenly
take off. They do.
What else have we got? Sometimes all about placement. Yeah, and when a palm meter comes into play. Yeah. Yeah, you can stab the base also to stimulate growth. Okay. Yeah. It's an interesting one. Right, we are at time. I lost track of time. So I think we're done. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Been a great stream. Apologies for the last hour or so, even an hour and a half. My Tinternet's been okay. I think I haven't frozen. Well, I haven't noticed it anyway. But thank you, Tom.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you, everyone in chat, for whether you've commented or not. Thank you for watching, and we will see you. Yeah, see you next week.
See you next Friday. Have a good weekend, everybody. Take care. Cheers.